How's it going, everybody? I'm Dave Glavin, an aspiring NBA salary cap strategist, and today I'm going to be discussing the Golden State Warriors salary cap sheet, as well as how they can potentially maximize the rest of Steph Curry's career. They've been a major topic of discussion this offseason, given the contract stalemate with Jonathan Kuminga, which resulted in him recently signing a 2-year, $46.8 million deal with a team option in year two to stay with the team. A big point of contention with this negotiation was that team option, which he ultimately decided to take a deal including one, as opposed to the qualifying offer. And he's going to make roughly $15 million more than he would have. I think it's a big win for Golden State. He's going to be trade eligible, as opposed to if he had taken the qualifying offer, he would have an implicit no trade clause. And this is a deal that's going to be very movable. And I'd be extremely surprised if he's still on the roster post-trade deadline. He did shine when Curry got injured in the Minnesota series last season, but he's shown to be a poor fit in their ideal offense. And that's not necessarily a knock on him as a player, at least on the offensive side of the ball, but especially with the Butler acquisition, I feel like Golden State's going to be much better off if they can use that salary to find a better fit. And I'll get into a potential target later in the video. Couple of more things I'd like to note from last season before diving into the cap sheet. Curry's usage rate dipped below 30% for the first time since Durant was on the Warriors. Even before acquiring Jimmy Butler last season, Golden State was going 12 or 13 deep on some nights to try to limit Curry's minutes, protect his body. And they got off to a really hot start, but that tapered off. And I do expect another decrease in usage rate for Curry as they try to prep for a deep playoff run. They were 22-5 when Curry and Butler played together. And while they certainly took advantage of some inferior, kind of weaker opponents later in the season, 22-5 is nothing to scoff at. They found a lot of success with Curry, Podziemski, Moody, Butler, and Green, that lineup. However, in the playoffs, Moody looked unplayable. So we'll see if he's able to bounce back and be a positive contributor this season. They added Al Horford with the full tax mid-level exception, just under $5.7 million. And despite being 39 years old, he's going to fit seamlessly into what they want to do on both sides of the ball. He did take a step back last season, but he can still bring the two-way versatility that every team wants. They'll need to be smart about how they manage his minutes, but they've been searching for a big that can stretch the floor like this and defend for years. And I think he's going to be a great mentor for Quinton Post. This move does hard cap them at the second apron, which is another reason why the Kuminga contract situation dragged on a little bit longer than it should have, is because they're going to need the room to field a full 15-man roster. For their starters, assuming Horford starts, are going to be 35 years or older. So they're going to need that full 15-man roster to take a little bit of the load off of those guys. And I also expect their two-way guys to max out their NBA eligibility in terms of how many games they can play. We'll discuss how that affects their Seth Curry signing in a little bit. But they did also reunite with DeAnthony Melton, 2-year deal, roughly $6.5 million, player option in year two, I believe. Actually, might scratch that. No player option, but they did sign him with the non-tax mid-level exception last season before trading him to Brooklyn for Dennis Schroeder after he partially tore his ACL. He played well for them, limited minutes, limited sample before the injury, but he had the second best net rating on the team, and he complements Curry well, given his ability to shoot and defend. If he fully recovers, he's definitely going to outperform that roughly $3 million average annual value. So I do like this deal for them. Also brought back Gary Payton II on the minimum. Solid guard depth, knows their system, knows how to play around Curry. So a fan of that move. And about Seth Curry, they did sign him to an Exhibit 9 deal, but per Bobby Marks, given how the prorated vet minimum works, the first day that they'll be allowed to sign him to a rest of season contract is on November 11th. So expect him to be on the roster sometime in mid to late November, just given those restrictions. They sit roughly $2 million below the second apron, And they're in the repeater tax with roughly a $70 million tax payment. The main goal for the front office at this point during the season is going to be to find a suitable trade for Kuminga to maximize the roster around Curry, Butler, and Green. At this point, you really don't know how many seasons you have left of their elite performance. So if the right move's on the table, we've seen in the past that ownership is willing to take risks and spend if that means they're getting closer to a title. Additionally, with a roster this top heavy, the front office is going to have to win on the margins in any way they can. Taking a page out of Memphis's book, who consistently identifies value on two-way contracts better than any organization I've seen. They have to be able to identify guys that might be able to contribute in May, in June, on the back end of their roster. They've got 3 tradable first-round picks, depending on what years they choose, as well as 3 seconds, if my tracking is correct. So let's talk about a potential target for Kuminga. He was rumored to have been sought after by Sacramento and Phoenix, but talks fizzled out this summer after Golden State was looking for a young player and a first-round pick. I think it's going to be tough for Kuminga's value to increase given how much Kerr has utilized him in the past and how he fits next to Steph and Jimmy. But given the age of their top guys, it is going to be possible for him to shine on like back-to-backs when some of them might be resting. So we'll see how that plays out, but I expect his value to stay roughly the same before the deadline. I don't think Sacramento or Phoenix are viable targets unless for some reason it is Sacramento, so you never know, but unless they don't want to extend Keegan Murray and for some reason he becomes available, or if Phoenix is willing to part ways with Dillon Brooks. Other than that, I don't think there's a guy that Golden State would want or really an offer on the table that would be good for them. I do believe that Golden State's going to target a wing in return, though. So the mock target that I have is Corey Kispert from the Wizards. He's got 3 years, $40 million left on his deal. Washington's in a position where they're going to be taking flyers on young talent. We've already seen it. Kuminga would have a chance to play some significant minutes to see what they have with him there. I do believe he's going to have to make some strides defensively this season for Washington to be interested. Their front office is disciples of OKC, so they're really going to want guys with two-way ability. It's not possible to do a one-for-one swap given the salary matching rules, but I feel like for the main part of the deal, Kispert and the protections back on the 2030 first that Golden State sent in the Jordan Poole trade would suffice. I did throw in Malachi Branham for salary matching purposes. And I wanted to note Jonathan Kuminga does have a 15% trade bonus that in this scenario Washington would cover. This move would also reduce Golden State's luxury tax bill by roughly $20 million, given that they do save a little bit of money in terms of they'll be sending out more. You can never say never in the NBA. I already know there's going to be reports all season about Giannis trade rumors, and Golden State always comes up as a potential suitor, just given their history over the last 10 years and their dominance. I'm not going to get into any hypothetical packages at this point just because I don't think Golden State could come up with a legitimate enough offer just based on where other teams stand. And Giannis doesn't strike me as a player who's going to force his way somewhere to Golden State. Obviously, Luka Doncic got traded, so anything can happen. But I really don't think they have a package to get a star. I don't see Draymond being moved. And we just saw what the market was for Jimmy Butler before the extension. So I don't see a viable move for him either. I'm really interested to see how this team handles a loaded Western Conference, especially given their age. From what I've heard in what Kuminga has said in his press conferences, he wants to be there for the whole season. I don't believe that at all. But if he's able to develop a new mindset and put the team first, really commit to the defensive end, I do think they could benefit from his minutes. Other than that, it's basically all I wanted to touch on in this video. Appreciate anyone who tuned in. I'm going to be coming back tomorrow with a video on the Pistons' upcoming rookie scale extensions. Thank you.